This is the Storyworks Roundtable, where we have conversations about craft. Because becoming a successful author begins with writing a great story. Hello and welcome to this week's Storyworks Roundtable. It is time for our annual episode on motivation. That's right, New Year's time. So 2019 is upon us. What is going to keep you two motivated to be awesome creative artists in 2019?
I think I can't let the pain level rise any further. It's time.
Right. Pain, the carrot and the stick.
Yeah, I don't tend to be motivated by the stick, unfortunately, which is, it's okay because it gets you moving. And let's face it, almost every human will do more to run away from pain than they will towards run towards goodness. It's kind of how we're programmed. But I'm definitely very skewed that way, but this has been a year of sorting out other types of pain that were nothing to do with writing, that were to do with business and personal life. So that's been great, and I think it's time to just get down to it. And as Stephen Pressfield says, turn pro. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Kathryn, what about you? What's going to keep you writing in the coming year?
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I've achieved a lot of my career goals in this last year in terms of becoming more independent and self-employed and making that transition and doing it successfully, although it wasn't with writing, was very empowering. And it also gave me the opportunity to say, okay, like, where are my goals and what are my plans to achieve them, and what's achievable within now my new structure of life. And I feel like I have a better understanding of myself, of what I'm capable of.
Right.
And that's just so empowering and exciting.
It is. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, I'm really excited. This next week, my husband and I, we are both self-employed now, are planning on totally sitting down and just like pounding out goals and expectations and how to do it, strategies and tactics, and and really getting deep into what that looks like on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis.
Right.
Rather than just throwing big gigantor goals out there and saying, "Oh, reach you someday."
Right. Yes.
It's really fun. It's a new experience, and I'm ready to tackle it. So
awesome. Yeah, I don't know where I saw this, but for a while I had a sheet of paper with the saying, your day is your week is your month, your month is your year, printed out on it. So it's a good reminder that if you waste a day, what's next? Are you going to waste a week? Or if you have a really great day, that can make your week. So you need to look, as you're saying, you need to pound out the goals and really break them down so that you don't get lost in the quagmire between here and the big vision.
Oh, yeah. Well, and if you don't have small goals that you're working on, like you just don't end up going anywhere. And that's, especially what I've been learning as I've been building my piano studio. It's like things, if you don't focus on the next student, you're never going to have enough students to survive. If you don't focus on the next piece of music, the next, whatever it is, it's like, so that was kind of a revelation in the way that I've been approaching my days. So I'm really excited to see what that builds towards this coming year.
Yeah.
That's nice.
That's a really great lesson.
Just before we ask you, Alida, so it just occurred to me on that chart thing you were talking about, I heard a phrase which struck me and I'd forgotten about it, and I'm going to write it down and print it out somewhere. How we live our day is how we live our life.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's a bit shocking when you sit and think that through. You think, well, yes, that's absolutely true. And I think as writers, and again, why I spoke about it in the other episode, if you're not writing, are you actually a writer? And I don't think that's, it's not necessarily as cut and dried as that, obviously, but it's very easy to give yourself the excuse of, that was my year of studying craft. It was fine. I did writing, but it didn't, like you, it didn't result in a book out there. So what's your 2019 inspiration and goals then? Alida?
Oh gosh, what is my inspiration? I think not repeating 2018.
So you
Being,
move away from pain. There you go.
yeah, being diligent and focused. And I sort of feel like December is the month of get through the holidays. There's so much more distraction coming at you than just your normal life, because you've got the social stuff and the decorating stuff and the errands and the chores and so it's an interesting time. In one sense, it kind of lets us step back from the normal deadlines and in the cracks between all of the hustle and bustle say, okay, where am I at and what do I want for next year? And I know next year I want to maintain the travel and the fun, but I don't want to be struggling with the transitional stuff around the travel and the fun. And I think to do that, it's going to come down to discipline and really being regimented. And, it can be overwhelming just saying that, because there's the meditation practice, there's the exercise to stay healthy, there's the dietary considerations, there's sleep hygiene, as we now call it. So there are so many things we need to be doing every day. But if I step back and look at who I am and what drives me as an individual, writing is a lifelong passion. So, I don't think it's okay to sit on my butt all day because I'm writing. I do still need to exercise. I do still need to do these other things, but I need to make my number one the writing practice.
So it'll be a reprioritization.
Yes, yeah. I was kind of saying in the last episode we did that when I'm in the middle of a project, I can spend a whole day just working on that project. It's immersive for me, but if I'm between projects, lacking momentum, it's difficult to feel that same drive to be making that time. So that's something I need to shift. I think I need to make the time to find the drive instead of waiting for the drive to help me create the time.
Like Kathryn's thing about where's the next student coming from, or where's the next piece coming from, then I suppose for us it's where are the next words coming from? How do I generate those today? Because I'm very similar when I'm in the middle of, say, second or third revisions. It's very consuming and actually really hard to separate out and do drafting work, for example, if I'm in the middle of that. And I know it's possible because there are plenty of full-time authors who do that. So it's only most of it's really mindset, I think. We have the time. There are people who have done way more than any of the three of us who have been even busier, perhaps. So it is just it's so easy to let your mind get caught up, isn't it? And as you say, Alida, I mean, there are things that we're already committed to. If you're a mother like Kathryn, there are things that you cannot drop by the wayside. You can't reprioritize them. They are the priority. And they're going to demand that as a priority. So it's definitely it's a struggle, but I think that's why writing is hard, which is why so few people maybe do have it as a long-term career. It's not something you want to enter into lightly. But those of us who end up doing it do it because, as you say, we've had a lifelong fascination with story and with the written story.
Yeah, I like, Alida, that you use the word discipline, because that's been very much top of my mind lately too, is that the adding the discipline within your life. And you do have things that you are very disciplined in, like everybody does, things that you would never consider just not doing.
Right.
But adding in new ones takes willpower, takes repetition, takes, a motivation that, like you said, you have to look at the deeper, like, what do I really want? What do I really desire? And, and prioritize that, and then turn it into a discipline, an everyday act. Right. Even if it isn't, like you said, like sitting down every single day at the exact same time to write the exact same, but just to have that discipline in your mind that I would not skip my writing today.
Yes.
Whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And to tack on to that, I'm reading, and I'm probably over halfway through actually, a fantastic book about habits called Atomic Habits by James Clear. I highly recommend it. And I've actually found a good friend of mine was reading it at exactly the same time as well. We were both raving about it. I've read some good books on habits that have similar approaches, but he's really got some granular insights into how, lots of different ways that you can change things around, because as Kathryn said, it takes willpower. And in my experience with studying willpower with Tony Schwartz, willpower is limited. We only have a certain amount of that each day. And sometimes that can be all taken up with, for example, my casual job is retail sales, and I come home exhausted from that.
Right.
And it's really hard to get the willpower up in the evening to then work on writing, and I do it, but it can be exhausting. And the thing that always beats willpower is systems and routines and rituals. And so the moment you can start slotting things in, so let's say the issue is you come home from work or you come home from a day, and then you've got to spend an hour and a half figuring out what to cook, what to eat. But if that was already ready for you because you'd planned it out on the Sunday and you knew exactly what, you had already bought the things from the store, you might shorten your time. You might buy yourself half an hour.
Right.
And so without any willpower. So his point in Atomic Habits is what's well known as habit stacking, and he didn't invent the term, but the idea is that if there's something that you do without fail every day that you can then attach the new thing to, then that will make all the difference. So if you get up, shower, brush teeth, and then go to the kitchen to put the coffee on, then after putting the coffee on, then you go and get your to-do list and prioritize it. And let's say you never used to do that. Now, that's a new thing. It's simple, but it's part of a systemic approach. It doesn't take any willpower because you're just tacking it. So, yeah, I'd highly recommend that book. Like I said, I already know I'm going to reread it, and I'm probably a little more than halfway through.
Good. I wrote down the title. I'll be I'll be looking it up after our call. Yeah, I think that ritualization thing is something we've talked about in previous years too, and how useful that is to tack the writing on to something else, whether it's right after you shower or sitting down with your cup of coffee. One thing I tried to do or have tried to do is make my writing time the first time in the morning, so meditate, make coffee, sit down to write. But what I have found this year, and maybe I'm just recently tuning into what's actually going on, is that my dog needs attention when I sit down to write. She wants me to open the door for her. She wants to, be on my lap. She's pacing around. She's making noise. So as you were talking, Robert, I was thinking about that. Okay, so ritualize it, but also you have to optimize the time frame when the dog's not restless, because, dogs sleep 16, 20 hours a day, but she's not sleeping at that window. So I think that could be another helpful tool, is sometimes you can pick your time slot and make that your writing time. But when we do have family lives and busy households, sometimes you need to pick a time slot that works with the rhythms of your household.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
I tried that. I tried putting my writing in a nap time, right? I'll put the baby down. I'll come and write, right? So she might sleep for 15 minutes. She might sleep for an hour and a half. She might not sleep at the same time every day, right? There's no rhythm to it.
Yeah.
So I was constantly getting in and sitting down and being okay, I'm getting into the rhythm, crying. No. So I had to take it out of that slot and say, no, that's not going to work. I can't do that. And then I've been trying to push it into after bedtime, after, I get home from teaching and stuff like that. And then I'm running up against Robert's exhaustion point.
Yes.
Right.
So it's interesting, you have to iterate and iterate and iterate as you're going, okay, what's working, what's not working, what can I change, or how much can I change, in order to make it better. So it's interesting.
Yeah, or is there a tiny shift? or is there a tiny shift that then makes that time more available for creative output? For example, I remember reading Rachel Aaron's 2K to 10K, which is a terrific read, and I think it's a 99-cent book. And one of the revelatory things in there for me was that before she started writing, she would sit for 5 minutes and just think about the scene and maybe jot a few bullets about what that scene wanted to cover. And now that I've spent all this time studying craft, that is so easy. I mean, I just think, okay, well, I know what the protagonist wants. I know where the scene's got to go. I know what the value shift is. I know what the turning points are. And I think what will change my habits is to be able to insert that, because I think what I'm thinking in my head is I want to sit down and write, but that's a gestalt chunk. So I've gone back to this, I should know this stuff by now, and I'll just churn out a scene. But I think maybe one of the atomic habits I could insert there is, perhaps waking up in the morning before I jump out of bed and go in the shower, I can just say, okay, here's what are my 5 points I want to write in that scene today? Because sometimes when you wake up, your creative mind's sort of whirling a bit from stirring from dreams or whatever. It may not work every day, or maybe it's before I go to bed. I don't know, but something that would be more automatic that would then say, okay, well, I now know what each 200 or 300 word chunk is, as opposed to there's this blurry idea of a couple of chapters I want to write.
Right. Yeah, I think that's critical. I love what you're saying, because it's kind of that big amorphous goal at the end of the rainbow versus the very practical step on the way. So if you sit down and say, I'm going to write 2,000 or 4,000 words in the next 2 to 4 hours, well, maybe you'll hit that goal, maybe not. And if not, it might be because you haven't got the focus yet. So if you take some of that time, 5-10 minutes, and spend it, settling in, processing, setting a goal that's not the amorphous goal, but is a very tangible, here's a scene, here's a character, here's what I need to do.
Yeah, this is what I was thinking when Kathryn was talking. I was thinking, because I know, I'm obviously tried to be a meticulous outliner, and Kathryn, I know, is much more in the flow writing. I don't know what you call it.
Not much more,
you're not a pantser because you do know where you're going. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe that's one of the issues, is that you're looking at your 10 minutes to whatever, an hour, as flow writing, when perhaps the first 2 minutes could be, all right, what could I do in this time? Could I write that scene where the protagonist meets their first ally, or can I is there something more concrete that I mean, I know it's hard because we're always picking up a story from, you've kind of got to get your head back around into the story again. So that's,
I like the idea of that, like put a couple bullet points in there, and you could even do it like you were saying, like before you get out of bed. Right. And then you're thinking about it all day. And then no matter what 15-minute chunk you have, like, oh, I only have a couple minutes, but you're already sort of in that flow because you've got it. Like, this is my idea that I want to get done today. And I like that because you don't necessarily have to write it down. I could pop open the voice recorder on my phone.
Yes.
Just as, I'm getting ready in the morning and getting the baby together. Like, everything that's going on in my life could be occurring at the same time. And I could still, okay, this is the things that I'm thinking about for today. These are the 3 or 4 things that need to happen in this scene or whatnot. And then it can just be percolating.
Well, exactly.
So any writing time I do have is productive then at that
point. Well, then you've got a receptacle for your creativity, because I think part of the problem is that during the day we're in task mode, and task mode and creativity don't play well together in general, but creativity does work well with constraints. So sometimes if you've got a deadline on you, then it's amazing what we can do. But if your mind is all scrambled with I've been out buying diapers, or I've been doing this, or whatever your day is going to be involved there, Kathryn, then it's really hard, I think, to switch on the creative brain again. But if you've had a receptacle for it during the day, like as you say, it could be a voice recorder, or it could be a notebook, but then that's a great way to capture things. So I think I don't do enough of that either. So I think that's something that will be useful for me in 2019. we've definitely descended into the routines and habits and rituals part as well, haven't we? Here,
Yeah.
that's my sorry about that.
I
that's
think
what
that
you need to
was
focus on when you're looking
right.
at goals and motivation and inspiration for the next year. It's the nitty gritty of how do I accomplish all these things that are floating in my brain.
Well, I used to be a really big believer in goals until I studied NLP, and then we looked at more at outcomes, and then from there, and looking at systems theory, I tend to be much more focused on inputs because it's inputs that create outputs. So I know it sounds like a really stupid technical term, but a lot of people say, "Oh, I want to earn $200,000. What are the inputs for that?" And then that comes down to what are the daily micro activities that drive those. And the obvious one, I mean, writing's super easy because the inputs are words. So, in a way, it should be a simple, straightforward thing. If you didn't have brains, they got in the way.
We're good at overcomplicating things in our own lives. That's just the truth of it.
Yes. All right. Do either of you have a concrete, tangible goal for 2019 you want to share? Now that we've talked about keeping ourselves motivated and the management of time and
I want to finish this trilogy certainly by the middle of the year. It's got to get done because otherwise it's going to turn into an embarrassing albatross.
Right.
So
yeah. So is that a book and a half you have to write in the coming 6 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is easy. It's just I've got to knuckle down and get those routines in.
Good.
That was funny. Which is easy.
Right, I know. That's what I was thinking too. Oh yeah, a book and a half in 6 months. I can do that standing on my head, typing with one thumb.
If I'm writing, then it's not a problem.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Oh, we laugh.
Well, I mean, I laugh at NaNoWriMo because I've done double that in a month, plenty of times. But the problem is that, like I've said, it's the binge writing that works against me. So, in my downtime when I'm either not writing, not binge writing, or I'm editing, I'm not producing more content, and then it turns into a new habit of not producing content.
Right.
So I've got to get that habit of doing words, and luckily 2018 has been a year of lots of words. Not always on the novel, but there's been lots of words. So that's been my word churning out brain is functioning, which is good.
That is good. Good. All right. Well, I am working on a brand new book. I gave Skog Hall 3 a break. It was frustrating me too much. So, I want to get this new novel written, and the plot, the Storyworks Guide to Writing Plot, I want to get out. And God, if it's a great year, I'll get Skog Hall 3 out too. We'll see. I'm gonna make that one the maybe goal.
The bonus goal.
Stretch.
The bonus, the stretch goal. That's right.
Kickstarter stretch goal. You're going to have your private Kickstarter.
Yeah, I need to put a thermometer on the wall and we can mark my progress.
On the wall in the Facebook group.
Well, in the Facebook group. But we could each have our 2019 thermometer behind us for the YouTube show.
Be fascinating in audio, that one.
Yes, we'd have to do audio updates. All right, Kathryn, how about you? Do you have a big writing goal that you care to share?
I do. I want to get something done. Like share with other people done. I hesitate to say published because I don't know what that's going to look like. But I do want to be through the revision process, the end, done, right, available for public consumption in some way, shape, or form. Ideally, it's the first novel in the trilogy that I've been working on, but I would settle for something like the novella that I think I'm working on right now with that I've been working on in Alida's class. So anything that I just want to get through a revision process, draft, revision, edit, copy, edit, done. That's what I want to see happen this year. Awesome. I've gotten midway through the process a number of times and then given up, and I don't want to give up.
Yeah. Yay. Yeah, I think that's a great goal. All right. So just to remind everybody, we've got a challenge out there that we set in the previous episode. Use the Storyworks Facebook group. That's the Storyworks Writers Facebook group to post your weekly progress and support and encourage and hold each other accountable. So you might be going for a daily word count, you might be going for a weekly page count or a number of hours of butt in the chair. Whatever your marker of progress is, come to Storyworks Writers on Facebook throughout 2019 and post your update. Let everybody know how you're doing and then encourage each other. So...
Yep, and I'll just come in and growl at you just to make sure the moving away from pain works.
That's right. Robert's going to be the stick. We'll be the carrots. We'll cheer and wave flags, and Robert will come out with the rod.
Right. Exactly.
It's very interesting, actually. This is a subject of another episode, but the difference between the US culture and the Australian culture is it's really interesting. We're much more willing to tear people down here and use negative motivation a lot. Whereas in the US, you guys are really good at positive encouragement. It's the land of the positive story.
I think you did that very well, Robert. It was very encouraging.
Yes, so you can get a little of whatever you need over at
exactly. We're a multicultural
Storyworks
group.
Writers. That's right. Thank you for listening to the Storyworks Roundtable. Find all our shows, show notes, and videos at storyworkspodcast.com.